Prologue. The Awakening in Toronto. Scene from Waking Up. The April sun seeped through the ajar blinds, projecting golden lines that danced softly on the white wall of the room. The clock struck 5:47, and the sounds of a city in transition between the silence of dawn and the bustle of the day echoed in Toronto. A streetcar gliding by in the distance, the insistent song of a sparrow, the whisper of wet tires crossing the cold asphalt. His body was still as heavy as if he'd returned from a long journey. The sheet, damp with sweat, clung to his skin. His heart beat like a ceremonial drum. He opened his eyes cautiously, as if he didn't want to spook the moment, and stared at the ceiling. For a moment everything seemed still, until a non-existent breeze made the curtains ripple slightly. Fragments of the dream still glimmered behind my eyelids. A liquid light, voices without language, a vastness without time. The mind wanted to understand, but the body wasn't ready yet. The smell of coffee from the night before lingered on the side table, mixed with the freshness of a new day. Reality was tactile, but it carried a veil of unreality. He sat down slowly, his bare feet finding the cold wooden floor. He walked to the window. Outside, the sky was lightening to lavender, and a child with a red backpack was crossing the street, pulled by his mother's hand. Something vibrated inside him. It wasn't just a memory, it was a call. Something inside the dream persisted, as if it refused to remain in the world of oblivion. With a whisper, he asked the still air of the room, was it just a dream or a calling? Report to Jametia. Jametia was still asleep, her face turned towards the window, her curls scattered across the pillow like the living roots of an ancient thought. She breathed softly, her lips parted like someone who was also dreaming. He sat on the edge of the bed and dabbed her shoulder. She woke up little by little, blinking against the soft light of dawn. "Love," he said, his voice hoarse. "I had a dream so real that it seemed more than a dream." She turned slowly, her gaze still sleepy and warm. "You're shaking. What happened?" I saw everything. It was as if I'd witnessed the origin of humanity, as if I was there, outside of time." Jametia raised his body, leaning on his elbows. His eyes were awake now. She took his hand between hers. "Tell me about it." He hesitated. The words came out in disarray, as if each syllable carried the weight of an eternity. He described the Creator, or the light that so identified itself. He spoke of the void full of presence, of a dark-skinned woman who touched the stars, and a light-skinned man who shaped mountains with the power of his eyes. He talked about division, pain, tears turning into seas. Jametia listened to him in silence, occasionally asking incisive questions. Why was the woman black? And why was the man white? Who is this Creator who appears in your dream? Do you think this is about you or about all of us? He couldn't answer. He just felt it. He felt as if each symbol carried centuries of meanings that he still didn't fully understand. "Maybe it's just my head," he muttered, looking down at the floor. She smiled tenderly and teasingly. "Or maybe you're my prophet in pajamas." They both laughed. He was relieved. She was curious. And then, with an unexpectedly serious tone, she said, "Write it down. The world needs to hear this dream." Narrator's inner reflection. He stood alone in the kitchen, mug of hot coffee in hand, staring at the city through the fogged-up window. He thought of the dreams he'd had throughout his life, incoherent flashes, noises from other worlds that disappeared before he woke up. But this one was different. Every detail remained alive. Every sensation still touched him. What if it's not just a dream, he thought. What if it's something more, something that needs to be said? He remembered ancient traditions, people who believed that dreams were messages from the ancestors or warnings from the gods. He remembered cultures that listened with reverence to what came from the invisible world, and then he thought of himself, an ordinary man in a modern city with bills to pay and meetings to schedule, but something inexplicable touched them. If this were 2 centuries ago, he reflected, someone would burn me as a madman. A shiver ran down his spine, and there, between sips of coffee and boiling memories, he decided. He would write. He didn't know how, he didn't even know where to start, but he would write, even if no one believed him, even if it was just to remind himself that the dream had been real. The call to write. In the living room, the morning light filtered through the curtains, tracing golden stripes across the light wood desk. The computer rested in standby mode, like a sleeping guardian. The narrator sat down with his hands still trembling. The cursor blinked on the blank screen. He hesitated. He typed a sentence. He deleted it. He tried again. The origin of humanity, a real dream. He stopped. He read in silence. That was the title, but it was also the truth. He took a deep breath. He wrote, "In the beginning there was only light and silence, and out of the silence came a voice, and it gave voice to humanity." Deleted, rewrote, changed the order. He let the text flow. Words came like waves, some sweet, others intense. He felt he wasn't alone, as if someone somewhere in the dream was still blowing stories into his ear. While I was writing, a light breeze blew through the room. The curtains moved, and a bird landed on the windowsill, singing a brief note. The narrator looked outside, then at the screen. He typed, and then, as I touched the first letter on the page, the universe opened up before me. And so the dream became words.